क्रिस्त की राह भारत भूमि दिलाने आए पुण्यात्मा, भारत जग में प्रेम का दीप जलाने आए पुण्यात्मा। प्रेरित दाता संत थॉमस स्नेहा, विनती करो हमारे लिए। प्रेरित दाता संत थॉमस स्नेहा।
You will bear witness to me till the ends of the world. These were the parting words of Jesus to his apostles. One of them, Thomas, took these words upon himself and preached the good news to the ends of the world. He traveled beyond the Roman Empire, beyond the Persian Empire, and reached India and possibly China as well. Like Jesus, his master, Thomas was also a carpenter and started his journey to India, invited by the King of India, Jafer, to build a palace for the king. Reaching Alexandria from Jerusalem, he boarded one of the ships destined to go to India. He evangelized various parts of the northwestern India of the Indo-Parthian kingdom of Gondophares between the years 40 and 50 AD, and went back to Jerusalem to take part in the funeral of the Blessed Virgin Mary, mother of Jesus. Back in Jerusalem, he is said to have participated in the Council of Jerusalem. Later in 52 AD, he started his second journey to India and reached Muziris, the trade capital of the Chera kings via Sokotra. Muziris, the ancient port of southwest India, was the first emporium of trade in India at that time. According to Ramban Patta, an ancient traditional hymn of St. Thomas Christian supposedly composed by a disciple of St. Thomas, after a few days of stay and preaching at Muziris, Thomas travelled to Mylapore in the Chola kingdom. While he was preaching in Mylapore, the son-in-law of the Chera king reached there and requested the apostle to return to Malabar. Accordingly, they sailed back to Malabar and reached Maliangara and started preaching the gospel. Thomas converted several Jews and Brahmins. Maliyekal Thomas, who composed the Ramban Path, was one of these early Christians of Maliangara.
സാക്ഷാൽ ദൈവം മൂവരുവന്താൻ മാർത്തോമായുടെ സുഹൃതത്താൽ സൂക്ഷ്മമതായി ചരിതം.
Thus, Maliangara became the first of the 7 churches built by Thomas in Kerala. We are here in front of the St. Thomas shrine at Recoded. In this pilgrim center, the relics of St. Thomas brought from Ortona is enthroned for veneration. Hundreds of the devotees of St. Thomas visit this place every day. From Muziris, Thomas traveled to Kollam, which was a famous trading center of South India. Kollam at that time in history belonged to the Pandya kings. Several people belonging to the trading class of Chettiars received baptism from the apostle. Now, the Church of Our Lady of Purification, popularly known as Port Kollam Church, stands at the place where Thomas established the first church at Kollam. From Kollam, Thomas travelled in the direction of Niranam, now a small village in the district of Pathanamthitta. The place where Thomas first reached here is known as Thomathukadavu. Thomas walked to Nilekkal. This place was also called Chayil. He remained there for a year and baptized several people and established a community. The place is now covered by a dense forest. A church in memory of Thomas is constructed here, and it has the honor of being the first and only ecumenical church in India. The fifth place where Thomas established a church in Kerala was Kokkamangalam. It is situated on the banks of the Vembanad backwaters. The huge granite cross built in the model of the original cross erected here by Thomas takes the pilgrims back to the times of Thomas. The next place where Thomas preached was Kottakkavu, known today as North Paravur. The remains of the ancient fort are still visible here. According to tradition, when the apostle reached here, a procession as part of the feast in the temple was winding its way through the streets. There were several people. A few elephants too were there carrying the idols. When people saw Thomas, they began to abuse him. Soon there was lightning and thunder, and several people and even the elephants fell to the ground. Frightened by it, people began to entreat the apostle to forgive them. Thomas prayed to God, took a bowl full of water, prayed over it and sprinkled it on the people and the elephants. They all woke up and knelt before Thomas. Several people received baptism from Thomas and a church was built in the place. It became the sixth of the 7 churches established by Thomas in Kerala. The 7th place is Palayur, now in the district of Thrissur. This place was known in the ancient days as Palura. When Thomas reached there, he came across a few Brahmins who were standing in a pond and throwing waters up into air as part of a ritual. Thomas inquired of the meaning of what they were doing. When the Brahmins explained that they were praying to their gods, Thomas asked them why didn't the gods accept the water thrown up likewise? If gods accepted the prayers, the water wouldn't have come down. The Brahmins responded that it cannot so happen, and it is even against the law of nature. Thomas assured that his God would accept the water and he was ready to show it, provided they accept the faith that he preached. The Brahmins accepted the challenge. Thomas took a handful of water, prayed over it, and threw it up. The water drops stayed sparkling in the air and the Brahmins were awestruck. Several of them got converted and received baptism, yet a few of them were furious to have been defeated in this way. They cursed the place and went away. The place cursed by them began to be called Shabakad, which later became Chavakad, now a city close to Palayur Church. There is a church at Tiruvamkur near Thattil in Tamil Nadu. According to tradition, this church too is established by Thomas and it is popularly known as Arappalli. The story behind the establishment of this church is noteworthy. Christians belonging to the Vellala community, which came into being as a result of the preaching of Thomas, were persecuted in the Coromandel coast. Therefore, Thomas himself led his people away from that place and they reached Tiruvamkur. The king of the place was well impressed by these people and the apostle Thomas. He donated to them 300 acres of land free of tax and allowed them to construct a church. He himself supplied the stones also for the church. This is the reason for it being called Arappalli. Arasan in Tamil meant king and prefix Ara to Palli, church, meant church of the king. The church that we see here is believed to be the one constructed by Thomas and his community in 63 AD. Now we are at the Malayattur Hill, one of the most important pilgrim centers of St. Thomas Christians. Thomas, during his preaching, used to climb to the top of this hill to pray. Though it is not counted among the 7 churches established by Thomas, it is the most popular St. Thomas Pilgrim Center of Kerala. The pilgrimage to Malayattur Hills has a history of hundreds of years. Malayattur is a hallowed place for St. Thomas Christians. They believe that Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin Mary, appeared to Thomas while he was in deep prayer. They believe also that a spring sprang up there to quench the thirst of the apostle. People speak also of a golden cross, which emerged by itself out from the earth, which earned Thomas the title Father of the Golden Cross, regionally known as Panackavayalil. Several people make this pilgrimage to Malayattur, often walking barefoot, carrying huge crosses, and they return after having received favors and graces they desired. Finally, Thomas reached Mylapore in the Coromandel coast to submit his life to his Master Jesus Christ, as had promised to him when he said, "Let's also go and die with him." St. Thomas, after having gone to the ends of the world to bear witness to the love of Jesus, gave his supreme witness to his Lord by offering his life as a martyr. The tomb of St. Thomas in Santhome Basilica and St. Thomas Mount at Mylapore in the outskirts of the city of Chennai are sacred places where people from all over India visit every day of the year to pay their reverence and devotion to St. Thomas. The cave where St. Thomas prayed, the cross discovered at the place where Thomas died, etc., offer the pilgrims unforgettable moments in their life. 1950 years are already over since St. Thomas gave his supreme witness to his love for the Lord. Like Thomas, we are also called to bear witness to the love of God. May this great apostle, who always desired to be like his master, guide us through the way he preached in our land.
എന്നുടെ മരണം ഓർക്കും മക്കൾക്കെന്നാൽ നന്മകളുണ്ടാകും. എന്നുടെ മരണം ഓർക്കും മക്കൾ എന്നാൽ നന്മകളുണ്ടാകും. എന്നുടെ ഖബറിൽ വന്ദനം ചെയ്യോർക്കെല്ലാം നന്മകൾ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യും. എന്നുടെ ഖബറിൽ വന്ദനം ചെയ്യോർക്കെല്ലാം നന്മകൾ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യും. എല്ലാം നന്മകൾ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യും. എല്ലാം നന്മകൾ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യും.